Hey there, 10sJunkies. Today we're going to be talking with Diego Carino Martinez. And he is a young coach out in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's only 22 years of age, and he just started up a high performance academy sort of thing in his community. So I wanted to talk to him, talk about what it's like to be a young coach and that sort of thing. Let's get into it. All right. So, hey, 10sJunkies. Today I'm here with Diego from North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, I
cool.
live in North Carolina. I'm originally from Peru.
Right. Yes. And today we're going to be kind of talking about how it is being a young coach and kind of starting up high performance programs and that sort of thing. So I have about 8 questions set up for us, and we're just going to kind of go through them and see how it goes. So first, I just want to kind of get to know you a little bit about your playing background. Whenever we were talking previously, you mentioned wanting to be a professional, which I feel like a lot of kids have that dream. So I'm not too sure how far that went, but just kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I started playing tennis at 10, and then, before that, I used to play soccer, and I played soccer for a while, and I never felt that soccer was my thing. And the second I picked up a racket, I felt like, oh, yeah, I think this can work better than soccer. So, well, ever since I picked up a racket, I just wanted to compete, because I've been competing all my life in soccer, and I was like, I mean, I love to play for fun for sure, but I like that feeling of being in a tournament match. That's
Right.
definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely different because like soccer is such a huge team sport. Like even
Oh
if
man,
like basketball, you could be like a star player and still like do your thing on your own, but I don't feel like
yeah,
that's the case in soccer.
no, definitely. And one of the things that I struggle as a team, as a team player ish, playing soccer, it was like it's pretty easy to point fingers. Like you have your whoever you're playing with, they're like, oh, probably this was your fault. When you're out there in a tennis court, it's just you.
Right.
So if you make a mistake, the only person you gotta look at is just yourself.
That's right.
So that's the
Yeah,
cool part
so
of this.
sweet. So what kind of level did you get to? I know that you said that you moved from Peru to the US. So I'm just kind of curious about like what competitive level you played in
Well, I
both
used to
Peru and
play
here.
nationals in Peru. I played one national in Peru, so that would be like an L2
Oh, okay.
here.
Wow. Yeah.
L3, L2, yeah.
Cool.
I'll
Yeah. So
say
you're like
L3
good.
because I consider that the level, well, depends of what surface you're playing, but I feel like people from this country hit the ball a little bit more stronger, more of like the hardcore style. And
Mhm.
I think that actually would have been beneficial to me at the beginning because I mean I'm a heavy player, so
Gotcha. Yeah. I
yeah, I mean,
assume in Peru you probably play on more clay, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. I've only gotten to play on clay a couple times, but like it's completely different in terms of like how
No,
the ball reacts, and it's just a whole different sport.
I believe that me like being a coach when I started coaching here, something that is very hard for the little kids is getting the timing and the rhythm of the ball, and clay for that is amazing.
Mhm.
Clay helps out a lot. The ball bounces slower, so you get to actually see more of the ball. You get to see the spin, see how the ball bounces, and as much as a slow bounce, the ball doesn't run that quick. So it's easier for beginners. I'll say it's a great way to start tennis. That's why I'm happy that nowadays in the U.S. there's a lot of those green clay, like hard through is what they
Yeah.
call it. Well,
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's like as close as it gets. I mean, it's a little off, but it's great to start for little kids
Yeah, I
for them to.
didn't think about
I
that
mean,
as like a developmental thing because you're right, like hard court, the ball bounces so much faster, and
yeah.
like I didn't think about that for like little ones, especially.
And like I mean, it is kind of hard already because when you're doing hardcore and you're doing like I mean, let's just say footwork drills, like plyometric drills that are like jumping and bouncing around. And the hardcore, it's hard on the joints, even though for the kids. So I mean, whenever we do that, we try to do it on like grass on the outside of the court. But yeah, I mean, well, at the club I work at, we're definitely lacking some hard through courts for the kids. It
Yeah,
would be cool to get them.
yeah, that'd be cool. Awesome. So we kind of talked about difference between tennis there and here. So I kind of want to
Yeah.
move into the next one. How did you start the high performance group there in North Carolina, and what age group would you consider it?
Well, right now we will say that it's like a big, like we will say like it's like an initiative of like a high performance because we have very young kids. So how it started, it was thanks to a JTT program. You know, we are a small club in a community. Like we're literally a club inside a neighborhood. Well, the neighborhood is, I mean, it's a little bit wealthy, you know, more on the wealthy side. So it's great that they have a facility there. So we started with a JTT program. We literally, well, that was like 6 months as I got hired there. And we sent an email and we were like, hey, who wants to jump in, come out? Like we had a lot of kids already getting private lessons, coming to clinics. Like they know how to hit a ball. We were like, hey, if you really want to compete or want to try this out, have fun, something different on the Saturdays. We started with JTT, and the kids, I mean, they won every single match against
Wow.
all the clubs. Against, yeah, I was very impressed because by that time, all we worked on was technique and we'll say ball placement and a little bit of the serve. You know, so that was pretty cool to watch. It was at the beginner level. We won the division of the city. Then we had to go to Wilmington to play for the states, and we lost in the first round, sadly. But I mean, though it was great because the kids are like were by that time they were 10 years old and we were playing the 12 and under division.
Oh, wow.
So
Really? Okay.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. I think that the JTT is probably the best way for kids to start playing because it
to
doesn't
get
throw them
started,
in.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
that, I mean, I'll say try tennis to start, you know, for the first time. If you don't want to, you know, to pay for like private lessons to start, try tennis. I don't know how's that working where you are, but here in Raleigh is starting very strong. And that's what, you know, you'll get to small communities that have a small park there. A pro will be there and you will teach the basics, just, you know, just to get more people involved, like just to get tennis out there. And then from there, JTT is actually pretty good. But again, I recommend JTT for the people that are just starting and they want to start competing. But again, that's like the lowest. I think it's the lowest level in junior tennis that we have here in the U.S.
yeah, I agree. I think the biggest reason why JTT works so much as like a starter is because it doesn't throw kids into like that no team sport environment. Like
Oh,
there's at
dude.
least some team environment.
So I love JTT because, you know, as you say, all the kids, they didn't feel like they were by themselves. Like I remember my very first tournament, it was like, let's just say, I mean, it was like I said at a tennis center in the middle of the city, and I used to play at this little club like right by my neighborhood. So when I walk in there, I didn't know anybody but my coach. So at JTT doing that is actually pretty cool, and now that helped out, you know, getting some of the players that were on the JTT team. Now they're trying to get into tournaments, and we still travel as a team. You know, like I mean, whenever there's a tournament in a city that is in Chapel Hill or in Raleigh, everybody is there. You know, they're not by themselves, so they have people cheering for them. And I think we're actually trying to keep that JTT kind of vibe for them until they grow up. You know, and they're ready for it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think a lot of clubs kind of try and skip that level and they like send their kids off into like this little like corner court with the one private coach and are just like, you're just going to train all day and then we're going to throw you into a USTA event. And it just doesn't work at that age at all.
Nah, it's. I mean, I'll say, well, it can work for 1 out of 10 kids. You know, as
Right.
always, it depends of who you have on the court. But yeah, I don't think it's. I'll say that like that's why tennis hasn't got a big impact on yet because it's scary. You know,
It
like
is.
that's how I would say it. Like it's scary. You know, the most of the times the faces that you see on the very first match, regardless of it's JTT or like a little practice match, you're like, this kid's a little bit scared. So it's the fact that they're doing JTT like, you know, as a team, and that giving us the opportunity to the clubs to have like a team of players that we can travel. Plus, you know, by signing up to tournaments, everybody gets to play their match. Sometimes in JTT, it's hard to get everybody to play. But
Mhm.
going in a tournament with kind of like a team of like 5 kids, you already have matches for them. So that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of want to talk about some challenges that you face starting up the program there.
Whew. Well, first challenge is always, I'll say, the parents. I'll say getting the parents involved. Getting the
Yeah.
parents involved, it's very hard, you know. And also, I mean, coming from the club that I work at, like I got, let's just put it as an example. You know, if you compare to how I grew up to how the kids are like living their life nowadays here, it's different. Like I remember all like for my private lessons, my dad or my mom or my grandpa will be there, like watching, you know, making sure everything is okay. And here, sometimes you just see the kid walking to the court by himself. You know, it's a little bit more lonely here, I'll say.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that is hard, especially if parents have never experienced like starting out in tennis because they just see the pros play on TV and they're like, oh, like my
Mhm.
kid could like pick up tennis. But it's kind of, you definitely need like that parental support from the start.
No, definitely. I mean, emotional support is huge because you know that's your foundations. You know, at the end when you become like a young adult, like an adult, and you're like in high school or getting to college, like that's literally all you learn as a kid. So it's that you know, emotional support from the parents as well as like the economical support. You know, because I mean tennis is expensive.
Oh, yes,
It's
it is.
key.
Yeah.
It's key. Yep.
One thing that I didn't ask you in that email, but you just brought it up, and I was kind of curious because there's a lot of talk about it right now. Is like
Mhm.
from an economic standpoint, how do you handle getting kids like started? Do you, in terms of equipment, like shoes, rackets, balls, things like that?
Well, the club that I work at doesn't provide. I mean, we can provide you a racket, but I think that's as it is. That's as much as it gets. Then I'll say, you know, as long as your court is the court that you're practicing is hard court, shoe depending on the level, you know, like I mean, I'm pretty sure that you won't have any problem if you're going out there to give a lesson with like running shoes. You'll be fine. You know, a kid that is just learning how to like swing the racket just yet, you know, working on the technique, that doesn't have to do a lot of movement on the feet, I think you know, running shoes are fine. Then I mean, I'll say if you're a beginner, you probably have no idea what the difference of a racket has with the others. So that's what I like from tennis. You know, it's literally you can throw in some shoes. You just need a racket, and that's all you need to start, and a little bit of a net, and then you can use that. You can use your imagination for that. When I was at home and I wanted to practice with my friends that are from my neighborhood, we we put like, let's just say, a couple of cones that the construction will leave there on the side of the road, and that will be our net, and we'll be hitting.
That's sweet. That is awesome. I've seen some clips in like Brazil, I think it was, where kids used those traffic cones and set them up along the street,
Hmm.
and it would just hit over the. Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. So what sort of things did you do to help motivate the kids, especially start getting them into the competitive side?
I'll say that all of that, the motivation part comes from, you know, from us, from the coaches. Like if you start your lesson and you don't have a happy face, or you're like, you know, the kid feel that. I actually believe that like us people, like nowadays, like the younger kids are more like energy driven. So even though you're not able to tell them something, you know, you might do an expression or you might walk a certain way, and I mean the kids are smart. They will know if you want to be out there with them or not, and if you want, they will definitely want to be out there for you.
Yeah.
So I'll
And
say that, you know, if you really, it's more of like how you approach it. If you give it the right approach, if you are motivated, if you like what you do, and if you're happy to be there, I'm pretty sure it's going to be easier for, you know, for whatever the coach is out there to make the kid feel comfortable and enjoy the lesson.
yeah, I in the first episode that I did, it was just like a little about me, and I was talking about like my main mentor, coach, and that was one thing that stood out to me was how he always was like energetic, coaching any level of kid at any time of day, and I think that like us as coaches, that's probably our biggest thing that we can do. If we can't teach them how to hit a perfect forehand, fine, but like if we can
Yeah,
keep them excited,
I did.
motivated, then that's kind of the
Exactly,
key.
because like, I mean, at the end, what are the odds of us? You know, I mean, hopefully, you know, fingers crossed that we were able to create like a Grand Slam champion.
Yeah,
It's like it's small. You know, it's small. You have, I mean, you have Djokovic trying to win a lot of Grand Slams already. He already has like 20. Same with Federer. Same with Nadal. So you know, making one of those it's hard.
yeah,
So
maybe.
at least the closest goal is just to make that kid like as he's leaving his house or his school, you know, that he has to be pumped. They're like, oh my God, I have tennis right now. Like I had lunch like 3 hours ago. I'm right out of school and I'm happy to be on the tennis court before my house. So I think that's like what I look forward to every day. You know, like if I like I can see my kid, and this is something that like we tell most of the clinic assistants that we're trying to hire right now is like, I don't care if all the balls go out to like out of the fence as long as the kids are happy for now. You know, at least on the clinics. You know, if you have it depends as always, it depends of the client. You know, it depends of what your
Mhm.
client is looking for.
Right. Yeah. So kind of transitioning into the actual coaching side, I want to ask, what are some things you've learned from being a young coach in particular?
Oh, well, number one thing is that we don't know anything.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad you
That's
said that because
number
that,
one
that
thing.
was going to be my
Number
answer.
one thing, dude.
Yeah.
When I started coaching, you know, and I mean, I've played a couple of leagues in Raleigh, like here where I live, and I realized, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know how to hit the ball. And then when I started coaching, I was like, oh well, you know, when you're out there with a kid that knows his way out of sports, you know, you're like, you get a soccer player, you get a basketball player, somebody that is already into sports, your lesson is gonna go a little bit easy. But you get the kid that has never touched any kind of sport, and you that's gonna be the day that you're gonna feel that you don't know anything.
Yeah, whenever you coach those kids that are already like you nailed that because like I've coached a ton of kids who are like they're just natural athletes and it's super
Yeah,
easy and it's like we get to do like little tennis things and we just kind of like build off that. But it's the kids who have no athletic ability that really test you as a coach. That's for sure.
no, it definitely does. Because like I mean, sometimes you know at the end of the day like they're there for tennis and some of the kids struggle to send the ball over the net, so you want to sometimes, you know, as they're young, maybe doing a slow motion technique, you know, swinging slow, a lot of repetitions might get boring for them. So you know it is hard for that, but I mean as a coach you got to rely of what the client asks you. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure something that I'm happy about where I'm at, and that's what has kept me there for the last year and so is that the parents are very aware of how their kids are, so they will give you a heads up. You know, like I mean, I have this kid that loves playing tournaments, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go hard on him because he loves it. He's like, I mean, whenever you know we have like an easy session, like a recovery session after the tournament, he's like, what is this, you know? But then you have the other kids like you push them and they're like, oh, I'm not used to this. So it's always about who you have on the court with, and it's always good to be prepared. You know,
Yeah.
you're not gonna run. I mean, just to give like an example, you're not gonna run a 5.0 lesson the same way you're gonna run a 2.5 lesson.
Right. Yeah. So talking about the industry kind of as a whole, what do you think? Because I would still consider you a young coach. I'd put us into like the same category. What would
How
you
old are you?
think? I'm only
Sorry,
19.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm
Oh,
19.
oh
Yeah.
Jesus, man, you're oh, this is the
Yeah.
very first time I'm feeling old. Very, very first time.
That's funny. Yeah, I
I'm
wouldn't call you
22.
old.
I just turned 22. Jeez,
I would
man.
not call you old. Yeah, but
I
I
appreciate it.
would kind of urge like I wonder what we can personally do to kind of further the tennis industry because I feel like a lot of the times when people are looking at things we say or we might teach, they're like, oh, especially with me, I've noticed this with some parents and stuff. They're like, well, like you've only been playing for 6 or 7 years. Like, why do you think you know more than say this other coach who's been coaching for 20 years? And it's kind of what do you think we could do as coaches to kind of help validate some things that we're saying?
Well, I would say that like something that I've noticed, you know, and like I mean, this is not me throwing shade or anything, but most of the adult coaches are adults. They are doing something else, you know. I mean, they have their job, of course, but most of them have a family. Most of them have their own kids. They got to take care of that stuff. Now, something that we both, I mean, I'll say we both have. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you don't have any kids.
No, I
I'm
don't.
assuming you're not married yet,
No, not
right?
yet.
Well, something that I do that I started doing on my own and without actually like wanting any cash out of my pocket. And I know this might sound out of pocket for like the old coaches that I really look up to them a lot. You know, like I'm always looking at like I mean, I'm a big fan of Nick Bollettieri, and I'm pretty sure most of the people are.
Mhm.
So, you know, I mean, like being old just means you have a lot of experience, so you gotta respect that. But something that I'm doing is like I'm going to see at least one match for every student that I have. Like, I mean, the easy part is that most of my students are around the same neighborhood, so they go to the same tournaments. So I'm like, go there, match, go there, match, and that gives them extra motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that, like, the little things for us coaches, because I'll say that even though, there are certifications, like you read stuff, you practice the exam, you do the exam, there is nothing that prepares you for what is going to happen out there. So I'll say that even though we have all those assets, we're still learning on the way. So, I mean, there's nothing better than see your kid actually performing in a match for you to work on a lesson, because, I mean, even the pro players, they tell you like, oh my God, I played. Yeah. I mean, Dimitrov, as an example, Dimitrov, like I saw that man practicing, and it's something different than whenever he's playing a match, So just starting from there, I'll say that apart from the impact that you can do on the court, the impact in the heart that you can do to your athlete, because that's also something that helps you out. Like, I mean, getting the trust from your athlete is being there for him. Like you don't want him to cross the line to feel like, oh, you're like an extra friend, but you want to give them that confidence of like a tutor, like a parent that is not your parent, but somebody that that is going to take care of you.
Yeah. I like that, because I think that was one big thing for me, was that like most of my coaches would see me play a match or two, and like knowing that they were cheering for me outside of our like paid time meant like that meant a lot more to me than just
Oh
any
yeah.
lesson. Yeah,
And
definitely.
again, like I know at the beginning I said that some of the hardest things that coaches running through are the parents, but another thing that scared me where I'm at is, dude, we have some amazing parents. We really do. They're literally let us run the show. They are, as I say, like I've never had in the year and a half that I've been at where I'm at, I've never had a parent coming to me like, hey, like, why are you doing this a certain way?
Yeah,
I'll say that also has to do a lot with respect
it's true.
and
And I feel like
how you're
that,
carrying yourself.
yeah, I feel like that, like the age part has kind of played a role for that with me. I know I've noticed that it's not as extreme, thankfully, but I've
Well,
just had that happen.
you
So,
look older. I'll
thanks.
say my secret. When I got hired, I didn't at every place that I got hired, except for the very first tennis job I had, they didn't know my age out of my mouth.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, they never asked me the question and I never responded it. It was just kind of funny. Like, after I was for there for like 7 months, and I started feeling comfortable after 6 months. The questions start coming. I was like, oh yeah, like I'm just like, I'm 21, and they were like, what? Are you 21? I'm like, yeah. It's just like, you carry yourself older, and I'm like, well, I guess I have to act older.
Yeah. And I think one benefit talking about being a young coach is that we haven't like set any like experience based stereotypes in coaching. Like I
Oh,
feel like some coaches who are older like get stuck doing, I'm going to coach this kid this way every time, and we don't
oh
we don't
yeah,
have that yet. So we definitely think I
and
benefit from that.
that's also what I'm seeing from, like, well, I mean, there's young coaches and also some other young coaches. Like, as always, some young coaches are very very open to learning. Like, I mean, even when I'm watching a tennis match, I still try to learn something. I like, whenever I'm watching doubles, I'm like, I try to tell, oh, what are they planning, or what's looking like, what are they about to do. I'll say that best thing, another thing to add for whoever is trying to start in this career and in any career, and I will say that it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, you still got to be open to learn.
Mhm.
Like, there's no way you know everything.
Right.
I'm a firm believer that there's no way that you know everything.
Right.
So
It's
you
kind of
you
like that
still
growth
learn.
mindset sort of thing.
And also, I mean, tennis changes. Like,
Yes.
to put it as an example, one of the kids that we coach, he is son to an ex college player, and he's saying that his dad was impressed of how heavy the forehand was. All father, guy is like close to 60s, plays with like a continental forehand, like soft eastern forehand grip. you know, and the kid plays with like a semi-Western already, like trying to go towards Western, you know, I mean, the game evolves. So, and,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and that's the beauty of it. Like the old patterns are now super readable. You gotta come up with new stuff. So I'll say
Totally.
that if you're not willing to learn, you're just sleeping. You know, like you want to, if you want to get better at what you're doing, if you really like what you're doing, I don't feel that, like, I don't feel studying, or like, you know, let's just say I do a certification, I don't feel that as some really hard work that I gotta do. I see that as, oh, cool, tennis reading time.
Right.
So keeping yourself humble and opening to learn, keeping those ears open and your eyes open is, and your mouth closed, is the best you can do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, for example, for me, one thing, I don't know if you've ever seen Essential Tennis on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Essential Tennis with
Yeah.
Ian,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does tons of like the video stuff. And I've started doing
Uh-huh.
that in my lessons whenever I get the chance. And that's something I wish my coaches did. And I don't blame them because they were a little bit older and that wasn't like their thing. But
What
like
do you mean, like
for
recording your lesson?
yeah,
Oh
or like
yeah.
recording like
Oh,
just certain and like analyzing what you're doing. Cause like watching myself play is way different than what I thought I was
oh
doing.
man.
And it's like it's night and day. It's completely different.
I've been always like, I mean, I've always felt weird on camera. I'll say, you know, that's why I would say I'm afraid of doing something that like what Ian does. But when I did the tennis specialist certification, Mark Kovas was big on, you know, record, analyze, stop, do slow motion, get in your computer, watch this. He shows you like a diagram with little lines of somebody hitting a serve. And then you're like, oh, I mean, if he's doing that, I have a camera, you know, I mean, if you have an iPhone,
Hmm.
you're good.
Right.
You just need like $20 tripod from Amazon, and you'll be good. I'll say that's also something great. You know, if you start recording and you show the kid, you know, you're able to show the kid what he's doing wrong. I'll say that actually makes him understand a little bit better,
Right.
because I mean, you know, this will come to like the principle of staying low on your knees. You know, sometimes, I mean, after after 10 balls that you passed over the net, you might feel that your knees are low, but they're not. You're completely standing up on the court. So I'll say that helps a lot, you
Cool.
know.
Yeah, I think that video is definitely underused. It's one thing I've been trying to do better, and it's cool to hear that someone else is interested.
I don't remember the name, but I remember there was a coach that would like, I remember there was a coach I met that he told me about it, and he told me that one of his services, okay, his name is, he run the PTR performance clinic, the PTR workshop that I did a couple of years ago. I think his name is Dan McCain. One of his services is actually, you know, you will go out to the court, you will record yourself, you will send him the video, and he will tell you what can you do from there. So I
Mhm.
mean, that was impressed. I'm concerned right now, like, why I didn't start it to record my lessons once he told me that. You
Mhm.
know, up until today, I was like, I should have started doing this a while ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Well, that's all the questions I have. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but that's kind of all I had.
Mm, I mean, uh, I don't know.
Nothing in particular. No problem. Do you have any
Mm,
like social media or anything you want people to follow?
uh, no, I don't have social media very open, but I mean, I'll say my Instagram maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Or I mean, my LinkedIn is actually the platform I use to post. Well, I don't post a lot, but that's the platform I try to to use to post some of my tennis videos. And you can just find me with my full name is Diego Carino Martinez.
Okay. I'll put
Then
it down in like the show
yeah,
notes too, so people can look you up.
I mean, I'll say that, you know, something that I've been struggling with is the mental part of tennis for young kids, for the little kids. You know, like how they handle a loss, and also at the same time how they handle whenever they get the result they want. You know, because I mean, if you want to get the result, that just comes with the work you did over the week. But how you handle the emotions after the match, I'll say that's something excuse me, I'll say that's something that the kids are, I mean, at least mine, they have a lot of trouble with. Like, they don't know how to, well, I mean, we try to tell them how to, but they're like a little bit blocked on that. Like, they feel like losing is too bad and winning is the best that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And what we try to do is like, you either get the result you want, or we have some homework to do for the week. Because I'll say that losing will be bad as long as you lose and then you proceed to do nothing about it.
Right. Exactly.
You know, like some of the kids, and I'll say that's also with like the mental health and the mental awareness that the parents have at home. Like if your kid comes out here and he misses a ball, and then the kids will go like, we'll say he goes or she goes bananas. I'm like, there's something wrong in there. Like you wanna you I mean, we have some athletes that they really can't see themselves missing a ball, like God forgives losing a match. And that's when the job comes a little bit hard, because I mean, you're trying to, the problem is that sometimes they won't listen a lot because they're blocked on, oh, like I didn't get the best result possible. And that's also why tennis is hard. You can either win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot
Yeah.
tie. So
Right.
yeah, I'll say that, like, lose. I mean, I tell them every time, like, I mean, I remember most of the times that I've lost, and I can probably tell you a couple of times that I've won, and they're probably finals.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, and most of the things that I've learned through life and on a tennis court, I've come out of defeat or being at a low point in your life. you know I'll say that you will be able to overcome whatever situation you have as long as you keep working hard on it. Like, if you go out there in the tournament, you pass a couple of rounds, but then you lose, and then you're like mad. It's okay. Like, I mean, you're not gonna be happy when you lose, but as I'm saying, it's what you do to make that L become a W for you, even though you're not winning that match. You want to take everything that happens to you and try to turn it around and make it positive for you. Positive reinforcement for the kids is also great. I'll say that also for the coaches. Nobody wants to be out there for an hour with somebody tell them what they're doing wrong.
Right.
You know,
That's just a whole negative experience. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I will say that positive reinforcement is key. And a ton of patience, because sometimes, I mean, there's some coaches that they do full time. I'm putting myself out there. I do like 8 hours a day, and you're in your last lesson, and sometimes you are a little bit tired, but you're gonna have you gotta pull through. You gotta pull through it. You have to do it for the kids. That's when you know that if you really like what you're doing or not.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
all about the kids.
Right. And being able to
Then
just stay positive at the end of those 8-hour days it's tough. But yeah.
you get different kinds of kids. You get the ones that are very soft with the hands, and then you get the ones that are totally on the opposite side. And I don't know about you, man, but teaching continental grip, like, I'm a big fan of, like, the first forehand you have to hit, it should be in continental, and everything you should start with continental and start moving it around. Because I'll say, like, continental grip so far, it's been the hardest grip I've tried to show to a student that comes back from, like, his or her beginning sessions, that they go straight to, like, a semi-western grip for a forehand.
It's kind of awkward because
So
you feel like you're going to miss no matter how you hit it. And
mhm.
I think that might be why it's kind of difficult for some kids. But I think the continental grip probably is the hardest one now that I think about it to try and teach. Yeah.
Yeah, coordination on the serve. But there's a lot of ways to do it. I'll say the, like, first things first, and this is why I love, like, plyometrics, is you wanna do it on your own. You know, like if you want, like, let's just say if you want to do a split step, you have to be able to do your split step without having anything in your hands, just you doing a split step. Then you start adding the next steps. Like then you will add your racket, you know, same way. Like if you're doing a plyometric drill, you will go jump without anything first, trying to keep your balance, and then you will try to make it harder. I'm a big fan of progressions when it comes to teaching something, you know, like coming from like level 0 up to level 10, and that helps out a lot in that positive reinforcement, you know, because sometimes like there's going to be kids that won't be able to jump from level 0 to 5. So you're going to have to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. And I'll say that's going to be big for some of, like, for most of like the kids that are more on the beginner side, or the ones that you can tell that are not, they don't feel as comfortable as some others with the racket. I'll say progression will be the best way. I mean, to my opinion, and progression, like a progressive way, is a good way to teach.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely going by. You're like, I never thought about it that way, but I feel like sometimes you do get kids wherever you can go from 0 to 5 really fast. And then other ones you've got to go super slow, and it might
Yeah.
throw you off as a coach, and being prepared for both is definitely important. Yeah.
You just have to be ready for it. Like that's something that, and I mean, and this is me for life as well. I always try to prepare for the worst. That doesn't mean I'm expecting the worst, you know. I just want to be prepared for everything, you know. I mean, even the best kid, if he's having a day off, like an off day, you're gonna still have to do a like progression, and that makes it so much easier for you. And then if you don't get to do like the full progression, at least the kid is going home with a progress, you know. Like he might not be getting, like, I mean, let's just say he doesn't have the full ground stroke yet, but from where he started, he's already a little bit, like, let's just say it's like I'll say some of the kids that are big on video games, I try to make them feel like that. Like, well, if you really love video games, let's imagine this is a video game. You're your own character, and we're here to get better. You know.
Yep.
So I'll say, as well as that, like trying to get yourself to their level, and but at the same time drawing the respect line, it's something that will help you out thrive out there more with the younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at the end, I mean, the kids, I remember myself as a kid, all I saw was an authority, you know, starting at home with my dad, then at school with the teachers. I mean, school is, it's kind of different. So even though I have some kids that are trying to like get, you know, trying to make a progress in tennis, I still don't try to make them feel like they're in sort of like school. Like you're here to learn, but this is like fun learning. Like you're here to run and learn. You're not here to like sit on a car, like on a chair or on a desk and write some notes. We're here to, you know, start running. So I'll say being motivated yourself, and if you are motivated, your kids are going to be motivated.
100%. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me, Diego. It's cool to talk to another coach in my age group and
Yeah,
kind of
man,
discuss
for
some
sure.
things. For sure.
Of
Awesome.
course,
Well,
man.
thank you.
Anytime.
Awesome.
I
I
hope it
will.
actually, I hope everything I said it will helped.
Yeah, I'm sure it will, especially with those coaches out there just getting started. Because it's tough just getting started out in the coaching world. It is, but you know,
It
step by
is.
step.
It is.
So
Because, you know, I mean, most coaches want to have, I mean, when I started, I was like, dude, I don't want to work for nobody. I want to have like, I'll rent out a court and you know, with the city. And then you're like, oh yeah, this is hard. So
mm,
I'll say, you know, you, and this is for a lot of people too, like sometimes the first step is not going to be the one you want to be. Like a
mhm.
lot of people are looking for that first step to be like the 10th step on their stair. And I'll say that what helped me out, you know, when I start, I step is not going to be the same as the first one. The first one is always going to be tougher. Like one of my first job in the tennis industry was as a pro shop assistant at a club in Raleigh, and I was only getting paid like 9.5 an hour. So I mean, it's rough, you know. It get everything that you start is gonna be rough, but just you always want to remember when things are getting rough is why do you start it? You know, like I started it because I was making more money working as a server, but that was not what I wanted to do. So if you want to get to where you want, I'll say you have to, that's for me, it's like paying the price, doing things that you really don't, that you would rather not do, but you have to do in order to, progress, like keep progressing and climbing up and getting looked, because I mean, you being out there for for whatever the amount of money you're doing, showing to your superiors that you are out there and you're willing to learn, and you just show that you want to be up there. That's also cool, man. Attitude has helped a lot of people, and I'll say that's the first step. It's just whatever you're doing, you got to do it with an attitude, with a good attitude.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me, and yeah, I think this will be helpful for a lot of young coaches.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Diego.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, so there you have it. That was my interview with Diego. Some really cool stuff to take away from that interview, especially if you're a young coach in the tennis industry. If you guys did like the podcast episode, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and also follow the podcast on both Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts if you can. Thanks, and we'll see you guys in the next one.